Well, hello everyone. Welcome to World at War Comics. My next guest is an amazing artist, Mr. Vladimir Popov. Vladimir, thank you for joining. I cannot wait to talk to you and all the different things that you worked on. You've worked on it quite a bit, man.
Hey, thanks you for having me. Yeah, I did a lot of stuff for the past, 12 years or so.
Oh, I
Mostly
can't
on the
wait.
indie side, but nonetheless, lots of cool comics. Some are behind, so hopefully
Yeah,
the audience can catch up.
some I'm really familiar with too, so I can't wait to talk about some of those titles. But what I'd like to do, Vladimir, if we could kind of go back in time and understand where your passion for comic books and art started in your life.
Okay, that started like when I was like around 4 or 5. I'm 41 by this show, and I basically learned to read through comic books, specifically Disney comic books, the cartoony stuff like from the 80s. I'm the 80s child, so those were quite popular in the Balkans during that era, before in the old country, which was Yugoslavia. So the country printed pretty much everything, like for Marvels, for European stuff, Italian, like everything. So we had plenty of all, and I was like, my dad fed me with all those Disney comics and stuff, and like, first cartoon was like Asterix, Spider-Man, and Superman. So early on, I was brought into it, and I loved it, and I never stopped reading after that. And then the passion developed like when I was like 7 or 8 years old. Then the passion for like driving developed, and I was like, this is cool. I'd like to do it. And then I started driving as in elementary school as a hobby, and then I picked up from there. And eventually, in the teenage years, high school years, I found out about some amazing artists. I found out about Learn to Drive the Marble Way by Stanley and Joe Buscema, which was like the epic.
Yeah.
So I studied that, and then I studied a lot of like creators like John and Mobius and Mark Celestia, Michael Turner, the Frank Frazetta, and the whole wave of um, the legacy artists. So I kind of like was immersed most of the time as a hobby into that. And then when the universities came, I studied IT, and when I finished that, I worked like in 20s, like I worked various jobs. And around 27, 28, I was like, I would like to try myself at like making a living with this, see if I can do it. Like the intern came, and then I Googled it up, made my website, made my portfolio, and approached it like a job, started querying publishers, and used the technology Facebook, and that was like the only social network at the time, like 2009, 2010. So basically, I kind of like use the technology to break into comics the international way. So that's kind of like my curve of development for the past 30 years, and all the way, like like I drew, I read, I studied. So that's like I'm still doing that, by the way. Now, in 2019, I enrolled in PhD studies for arts and humanities.
Wow.
So now I'm writing a doctoral dissertation from the social sciences, like philosophy and like that different approach on comic books. So I'm
That's
combining like the experience and the knowledge, and like kind of like a giving back to community, but also it's really interesting to see how comics developed over like some 130 years in the past.
wow.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of my trajectory of work.
What was the first publisher that you broke into? Was it a publisher in Serbia or was it in the US?
Um, I published my first comic book in 1999 when I was 16 years old in my hometown in Serbia. It was like a comics underground fanzine or something like a magazine stuff. It was like one page, and it was actually my practice comic book for Learn to Draw the Marvel Way. So that a few friends published that, and that was official like my break into comics, like
What
25 years ago.
genre was it? Was it like a
Not
superhero? Or
superhero.
yeah,
Yeah. I designed a few superheroes who were fighting on a rooftop in New York or something like that.
that's awesome.
So
And a
yeah,
bunch of you and friends,
teenage.
you and a bunch of friends kind of built up that comic book.
Now I built it up all on my own in my
Oh, did
room,
you?
and then like I hanged out with friends, and then they were like, "Let's do it! Like, let's publish in a magazine." I was like,
Yeah.
"Yes!" So that was like the official break into comics. But my first publisher is a small press publisher from Ohio, titled Broken Icon Comics, and they found about me on the digital webbing forum, the legendary forum that everybody was breaking in there. So we connected, and then for like the whole, it was like October 2010 when we made a contact, and then they hired me to do coloring. They wanted me to do colors, and at that time I was like, I wasn't really sure how I'm gonna lean into. Like I had drawings, I had scripts, I had like colors, I had like like here's everything. And then they're like, we need a colorist. We like your colors. Let's see what we're gonna do. And that's how I started. And for the next year and a half, I worked closely with them. I was almost like a staff member,
Mhm.
kind of like an art director or something. Like they took me in, and then I developed their website, and then they started a comic book convention, Tri-State Con, between like Virginia and Ohio, and I think it's Kentucky or Missouri. I can't remember, but around Virginia and Ohio. And then I was kind of like a community manager, like helping out with that through online. And I did some web comics with them. So that was my first publisher. We're still friends, and I met some of them in New York, some of them hoping to meet in the future, because like one of them didn't like going outside Ohio, so I was like, okay. So that was the first official break into comics in US. And then soon after, around March, April, I got an offer from Boom Studios. I added a few people on Facebook. I sent them emails. I Googled them. I liked what they're doing, and I'm like, I'd like to work with you. And then they offered me some test pages for Steed and Miss Peel
Mm.
show, the British show. And I did a few covers, and they were like, "We have another test for you. Here is a page of Hellraiser." And I'm like, "Whoa, okay." And I did it, and Clive Barker gave me, space. He liked my work, and he wanted to see what I can do. And he was like, give him freedom and give him like the space to be creative. So they put me on a series, and then for the next 2.5 years, I worked on Hellraiser and the other book from Clive Barker, Next Testament.
Wow, that's a big name, man.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
I
awesome.
never met him, but you know, he always gave me through support through the editors and everything. So that was my big break into comic. Like, here's licensing stuff, and like jump into
That's a big
files. So there you go. You want it, you got it. No, cool stuff.
yeah, yeah.
So and
That's
then other stuff, came through Boom Studios, like RoboCop and create your own stuff and a bunch of other stuff. And then in around 2012, I got I got to work on a project for Boom Studios titled Dark Light. That was a space opera, and that's when I met Piotr Kowalski for the first time, which we worked together on a bunch of other stuff, which we'll talk later. And soon after that, in 2013, I met Andrea Muti, and like he's like the partner in crime. Like we worked together. Like for the past 10 years, we produced over 1,000 pages together. So
Wow.
we did a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's how I actually break. Depending, what what we're gonna call it, like into the industry in 2012.
Yeah. So you
So
break in, so you're an artist, but you also do colorist. You could kind of do everything, right? Do you do sequential art as well, or is that not your thing?
I know how to do it.
Yeah.
I know how to do it. I have my own style,
Hmm.
but mostly I work as a colorist.
Yeah.
That's my field of expertise for now. That's kind of like how I profile myself, based on my temperament, like emotions and like compositional stuff and everything. But I do enjoy in painting, I do enjoy in drawing, and at some point I might do my own comic book, but for now I'm like non-stop, like it was like a roller coaster. Most of the time I was fully booked, and there's always something that needs to be colored, and people like, here you can do it.
Yeah, yeah,
So I do, but I do think it's important, even though I work as a colorist, it's important to know how to do the art. It's important to read the art and see what the artist was trying to tell, and through script and everything, because he's doing adaptation of script and I'm doing an adaptation of line art.
yeah,
So that I do think is important, and knowing how the art works helps a lot.
yeah.
Also, knowing the artist helps a lot as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a colorist is so important um, to the overall storytelling, right? Especially,
Yeah.
when you're making genre switches. Like, I assume Hellraiser is a lot different than Where Monsters Lie from a colorist standpoint, right? The dark tones and the, what you're trying to portray. So, I mean, that's pretty interesting. Is that what you fell in love with on the colorist side? Like, what is the attraction on the colorist side of it? Is it that ability to kind of draw out those emotions of the reader by taking that art and putting the color to it that will draw out that emotion?
In a way, yeah, but what I felt in love the most was the opportunity to express in different genres and to have more freedom, because I can do it faster than the artist, and then I can like, and also the coolest thing is like I can be both the reader and the artist as a colorist.
Yeah,
Like I experienced true script and true line art like in black and white comic, and then I like figure it out. So in a way, the expression of ideas, and toning down, thinking about how the scene is going to go, what I want to portray, what kind of emotion. So I read a lot of psychology on colors and psychology on people and everything. To figure out what to do and to try to figure out and talk with the artist and the writer, like what's important, for the story. So I do like that approach, and I do like that thing in coloring because it gives me freedom to kind of like be a director of lighting and be a kind of like my own story director with it. So that's one of the things that I do find interesting. And how are you going to reinvent this next scene? For example, Hellraiser is a horror genre. Where Monsters Lies is also a horror, but these are like two different types of horror. So like I was doing something here while I was doing something else over here. And this is a creator-owned stuff. This is a licensed property. So there are like rules that you need to follow, So that's interesting to me, like those kind of like sandboxes where I get to play
yeah,
and express myself, and also how I feel as a creator, how I feel those stories. Like, I sometimes put something like how the story made me feel, so I kind of try to put those feelings in, and like those are the things that are interesting to me as a colorist. And also, I get to work with several publishers, through like few months, like when we have like 3 different projects with 3 different publishers, multiple people. So it's kind of dynamic, more dynamic than when I had to sit and draw. And also, my mind works kind of like faster, so it's a faster medium of expression for me.
yeah,
Words are the fastest, but this is like in visual terms, this is like the fastest I can get.
yeah. What is the most challenging part of being a colorist as part of a team that's working on a title?
Um, the most challenging, I think, like it's you know locking on the vision to nail down something that everybody's going to like. Especially when I get on a project and with new people. So getting along with new people and seeing what we're going to do, how we're going to do, solving the problem, and seeing what everybody thinks about how the story should go. So that is like outlining the story through coloring, like the art direction. That's the most challenging.
Yeah.
setting the tone, and then when we set and everything is in line, we can everybody can do their part.
Right. Yeah. How important is that communication, and how often is that communication taking place between the writer, the penciler, the inker, the colorist, the letterer? Like, can you walk us through what that looks like when you're working on a title with a team like that?
Well, I personally deem that extremely important. I like to do that, and when there is a chance, I like to do Zoom calls. Sometimes that's not a option, so we go through emails, and then like I like to write and then like give my thoughts, like I think this and this, what do you guys think? And then the editor comes in and says, okay, this is cool, we might do this different. Then the writer comes in and everybody expresses their opinion, and then we go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and we get, you know, what we want to do. And then I send pages how I do them, so everybody can give their feedback. So if we need to do revisions, we do them. And that's that's the process that I'm going through, and I like that. I enjoy that. I mean, it can be lonely, when you're sitting in your room and like doing art all day. And we already are like, across the world. Some publishers are across the United States, some are in Europe, some, people are, around the world. Somebody from Europe goes, to Asia on a vacation, and we go to several different, time zones and stuff like that. So it's an important thing. And also, I always kind of like felt it like we're like kind of we're in a band, like everybody's doing their thing, and then we have that, band chemistry and jamming on it and expressing the ideas, and we make something cool. That's the flow of creativity. Like that's an amazing thing that I I like. And then, when I meet them at Comic Con, because I'm visiting mostly New York Comic Con.
Mm.
When we meet, that's even better than like with all that hype talking and everything. And like it's a I think that's one of the important things in doing a good book,
Yeah. Is
like
it?
being a team.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Is there a certain genre that you like more or like the best for your art?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely science fiction.
Science fiction is where you like the most, yeah.
Yeah. Science fiction I like it the most because unlike the other genres, like that's the genre that basically, asks you to like step out of your comfort zone. Because, in horror we can imagine it's more like on internal stuff and like, our surroundings. You can paint your own dark and make something. But with science fiction, you basically have to invent something that doesn't exist. You know, we do a story on a spaceship. We gotta design the spaceship. How's the space going to look? What's going to be there? And how are the doors going? Like all the, kind of like a game design.
Yeah.
So it's it's a it's a creative process, and that's what I like, the science fiction. But horror is also cool. Drama is cool, like slice of life. I work in kind of, those stories. So I did a lot of genres like adventures,
Hmm.
pulp stuff. Pulp is cool, like, the 60s and 70s and 40s, like all those legacy characters. Like
Yeah.
that's interesting. So yeah, science fiction definitely, but all the other are interesting, to experience.
Yeah, nah, I'm a big science fiction guy too. I'm a big Green Lantern fan, and anything sci-fi related I love. So I can relate to you, Vladimir. I enjoy it as well, and I love that the thought of the unknown. And like you said, there's so much about like the sea that we don't know about. There's so much about outer space that we don't know about. So your mind could really travel and develop things on your own. So I would think from an artistic standpoint, that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah. Especially, for example, you mentioned Green Lantern. Like, I think he's super cool because you can be creative. Like, he has a green ring that like makes everything from your mind. So when you're a creator, like you can go whatever you want. Like that can tell so many cool stories with that. Like you can go unlimited.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
totally, totally like it. Like, and Silver Surfer as well, and
Yeah.
Galactus, and like that's like, the true. cosmic sci-fi, that's space opera stuff. I
Yeah,
like that.
me too. Me too. Now, you've worked on a lot of different titles. I just wrote a few of them down. You've already mentioned a couple, but Highlander, RoboCop, Where Monsters Lie, Starship Down. Like there is a lot of stuff that you've worked on, Vladimir, over the last, 12, 15 years, which is amazing. You're a busy, busy man, which is
Well,
awesome, right?
yeah,
Do
yeah.
you have this might not be a very fair question and it might get you in trouble, but do you have like a favorite title that you worked on? Or is that going to create issues with all the people that you've worked with over the years?
Um, no, no, it's not going to be an issue, but I can't say that I have a favorite
Uh-huh.
title, um, because every title I worked on is my favorite at the moment that I worked on it. Like it's a
Right.
process, and when it's finished, you kind of detach from it. You enjoy the process. You enjoy it's the one at the moment of uh, working on it. But each of those is it came from different time of my life, different settings, different circumstances, and each one was equal exciting. So I can't pinpoint out like that or that one, or you know. So the uh, the ones that I was filling, they might be like secondary because those weren't my titles to name them like that, because I was brought on the books to
Mhm.
help out. I had a few of those projects along the years, but most of the books are the ones that I was brought on and we created.
Yeah,
But some did pretty well for the past years. So
that's awesome.
that's the answer. I can pinpoint like like which one I like more.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's very fair. That's very fair. Can you share with us what is the comic book scene like in Serbia? Like, is there a local comic book store pretty close to where you live, or do you have to travel a little bit if you want to go pick up whatever's new on the newsstand?
Comic book scene in Serbia and Europe is a bit different than America. We don't have there are localized comic book shops, not but mostly in the bigger cities and in capital cities. But we do have like the bookstore chains all across the country and region. So kind of like Barnes and Noble stuff. So all the comic book publishers are going through those channels and through online services, through online, kind of like Amazon and all of that online sales. So that's the way books are distributed here
Yeah.
through bookstores, online, and a few custom-made comic book shops.
Yeah, my understanding is the every Wednesday getting your new comic books is really a US Canada thing, but in most countries
It
it's
is.
mainly graphic novels, a little bit thicker books, magazine style, and yeah, you pick those up at a bookstore as opposed to your local comic book shop, right?
Yeah, yeah. Europe has a different model. Like
Hmm.
there are several models here. France has their own bundle design, like the hard covers, the big ones,
Yeah.
45, 50 pages that come like 3, 4, 5 months per book.
Mhm.
So they have the bookstores, they have their model. In Italy, we have a different type of model. They're pretty much like kind of like American graphic novels, but the stories are like, the series is like made of graphic novels instead of monthly issues. Like you have a standalone story of 90 pages that is the same size of American comic, and you follow the character, and like they have like 100 of those issues. Each of them is like a standalone story. There is like kind of like an overarching arc, somewhere metafictional, but you can pick up any of those and read them anywhere, and that's how they roll in Italy. The rest of Europe, I'm not too much familiar. They're like mixed import export combination, most of it. So that's the stuff here, and manga, of course. Manga is everywhere.
Yeah,
So
manga's huge. Yeah. It's overtaking comics in the US, I assume throughout Europe too. It's pretty strong.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Are you a manga
But
fan,
you
Vladimir?
I am, yeah. I read some, Death Note and Akira and like some of the classics,
Yeah.
and I checked them. I mean, you cannot blame them because they do have some really cool stories. Like
Oh
they have
yeah.
like genre for everything.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
it's a genre-based stuff, and people can relate to characters and their stories and everything, and you know that's a that's a cool thing.
Yeah.
So that you can see why they're popular, and the art style is appealing. I mean, like the hyper-realistic backgrounds with stylistic characters. That's a cool. That's like on a psychological level, you can relate to like cartoonish stuff easily.
Yeah.
So in a way, they're cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you had a chance to work on anything on the manga side or no?
Actually, I did
Oh,
on one project, yeah, for Z2 Comics.
yeah.
I worked in, I think it's 2021.
Hmm.
Mm, 2000, yeah, 2021. I worked on a book titled Noctis.
Noctis.
Yeah, it's a sci-fi story
Nice.
as drawn as manga for Hilltop Hoods band
Okay.
because Z2 publishes the books based on music bands. So they're doing like bringing music and culture. So that's also a cool thing to explore. So I worked on the manga, yeah, and I tried to like do that like industrial sci-fi on a distant planet. Stuff happens there, so it was a cool project to work on.
Is it
An
much
interesting
different
experience.
working on manga than a comic book, like a US comic book? Is there a lot of difference between how you would color those two?
No, I kind of approached a more simplistic way,
Mhm.
you know, simpler rendering of faces and clothing, and much more flatter backgrounds because the backgrounds are already realistic, so you don't need to do like much rendering there, just making like mood and atmosphere to be right, specific to the story. So yeah, that was an interesting approach and experience. I had to like research a little to see, what are they doing over there in, Asia and Japan, how are they coloring stuff. So I wanted to have an experience, like this is the chance. So
Kind of a
so
fun,
that's what I did. And sorry,
it was a fun challenge for you.
it was, yeah, but it wasn't too much difficult because you draw like muscle memory from the experience before. So yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah. What are some of the current stuff that you're working on right now that you're allowed to share, Vladimir?
Um, I cannot share right now
Uh-huh.
almost anything that I like. I do have some projects that I'm working on with the publishers, but
Yeah.
it's not announced yet, so I'm not allowed to say anything.
No, no, no. Don't get in trouble, man.
So
It's not worth it.
no, no, no.
Yeah.
So at this point, it's
But
happening.
you do have a project right now that you're working on though? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I
Excellent.
do.
That's
Yeah.
excellent. Yeah. Glad you're staying busy, my
So
friend. That's amazing, man. So let's talk about some of the publishers that you've worked with, Vladimir, because we talked a little bit about Boom. We talked about the
yeah,
it was Z2, right?
you do. Yeah.
Yeah. Mad Cave. What'd you do at Mad Cave?
I can't tell you anything yet.
Oh, so
No.
that's some of the new. Okay, so we'll skip that. Dark Horse you've worked with, Top
Yeah,
Cow
I can
with
say.
Mark Silvestri, Matt, all of those guys over there.
Yeah, yeah. I worked. Okay, let's go with Dark Horse.
Okay,
My first project with Dark Horse was Starship Down,
nice,
which was creator-owned stuff between Andrea Moody, me, Justin Giampoli, and Sal Cipriano.
nice.
So it's a peculiar one because it came out in March of 2020 when the pandemic happened.
Yeah,
So
that's
it
tough.
had like yeah, it's pandemic child. It survived, but you know, it got canceled after issue one, and then Dark Horse decided because the whole thing was under lockdown and everything, and they decided to go straight to trade. So in October 2020, it got out as a trade, and for the relatively short amount of life that it had, like issue one to trade, like it was a really good reception. And like year and a half later, I go to Dubai on a vacation to see World Expo and like the city because I was never there before. And I go into the bookstore in Dubai and I find that comic book there. Like of all other comic books of all other places, I found my own creator comic book there. Like
That's awesome. Amazing feeling, huh?
and a lot of and a lot of other like you know cool American comics
Yeah, yeah,
because they're importing comics book from UK and
yeah.
books and everything. The publishing goes through those channels. So that was like an interesting project. And then last year, Comic Book Resources made a list of top 10 comic books from Dark Horse who would be cool to be adapted into a movie. And Starship Down was like number 8 or number 7 or something like that. Like I was like, nice.
Yeah.
So that was the first one. The second one was apparently much more successful one, Where Monsters Lie.
Mhm.
Um, that was a project that Piotr was asking me, like, would you like to join me in a project? It's a horror. I like it. You'd like it too. And the writer is cool. I did not know who it was at the moment. I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And we started like we went into it. Then we found out it was Carl Starks, which who is amazing,
Yep.
both like guy and a person and a creator.
Yeah.
So we started doing that and we went like with zero expectations. Like it was a cool story, everybody loved it, and we were like, okay, let's have fun, let's do it. I decided to approach it because kind of it's like it's like kind of like a killers in a gated community, like all the mundane stuff of life, like you walk, talk, like peel the this something for the food and talk occasional murder. Like it's totally bizarre. So I decided to approach it like, slightly more European French style of coloring and like the mundane everyday stuff. So I researched Norman Rockwell, painter, American painter, to see because he had those realistic stuff and paintings and approach and everything, satirical, sarcastic approach to American life. So I researched him and I researched Jeffrey Dahmer on his interviews, which were like ice chilling. The guy sitting talking to you, like exchanging food recipes, except it's like talking about like his victims. So
Yeah.
that level, like casual stuff, easy breezy, like that was a thing that I was like, I need that to put into a comic. That's freaking scary. Like I was scared to death while watching that on YouTube. So that was the line where I wanted to put. So that's how I approached it,
Yeah.
and it resonated with the people a lot. And Dark Horse did an amazing PR. They created a trailer, they did a lot of PR online. People did a lot of reviews of it, and we got again Comic Book Resources named it one of the top 10 horror comic books of 2023.
Yeah.
Comixology as well did that, and now in January we found out that it was like nominated for a Supreme Achievement in Graphic Novel category for the Bram Stoker Awards, the horror
Wow.
awards.
Yeah, the horror awards. That's
So we
huge.
did it really, really well. I had no expectations something like that would ever happen. Like it's one of the like thousands of indie comics, so it took everybody by surprise.
Congratulations. That's huge.
Thank you.
That's
Yeah, it is. And I was like, whoa. So that was the Dark Horse. That was my Dark Horse era. Now we're in talks for something. They're interested to put me on something else as well. So we'll see.
yeah. No, I'm sure. I'm sure of it. What about Top Cow? What did you work on at Top Cow?
I worked on Fourth of Earth,
Mm, yeah.
the science fiction with Zach Kaplan and Andrea Moody.
Yeah.
Matt and Mark were the editors and producers of it. So I worked on 8 issues there, and then because it was work for hire and we had there was a pause in production, I moved on something, so they finished the series with another colorist. But it was a great series, and now they're doing a hardcover edition, a deluxe edition. It's coming out in June, I think, or July. They just announced it like last week or so. So that was an interesting science fiction project because like we had to design a lot of stuff out of nothing. the
Right. Yeah.
spaceships, the port, the aliens, the story, the kind of like suspense action. So that was a that was a cool project to work on. That I think we did that one in 2018.
Okay. 2018.
Yeah.
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 That's awesome, man.
So that was my top cow era.
Out era. Yeah. Yeah. That's incredible. I mean, you work for some really awesome publishers, and boy, you've really touched a lot of different titles, Vladimir. So congratulations, and congratulations on all the
Yeah.
success. Where Monsters
Thank you.
Lie, which is huge. Starship Down
It,
in the Middle East. I think that's pretty cool to walk into a
yeah.
store and see your
that
title.
was
So
that
random,
was the
right?
if I can pinpoint the highlight surprise of my so far career, that's the one.
Yeah. I could see that how that could be the one, man. That it's so random, especially knowing what that title went through during the pandemic, and for it to still be in the Middle East, that's huge, man.
That title is a fighter, I can tell you that. I mean I wouldn't be surprised if some movie studio decides to like get a license. So who knows? I
Yeah,
mean
fingers
it's
crossed.
yeah, the life of a comic book.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Vladimir, man, I can't tell you how much I appreciate having you on today, man. It is a blast getting to meet you. I hope you could come on again, and I'd love to have you back, especially when you start to work on some of these new titles, when you're able to start to talk about it. We'd love to have you back to talk about those titles and everything that you're working on. But congratulations on all your success, man. You've touched a lot of people through your art and through a lot of titles. So you're a
Yeah.
busy man. You're like one of the hardest working guys in comics, I think, man.
No, I'm not sure about that, but
Yeah.
I mean I had my ups and downs in like you know in this 12-year span. Like there were times where I couldn't do work. I had to take a break, and like life takes its toll. Like stuff happens in the back, like with everybody. So it's it's swimming.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, yeah, no, you're right. It is kind of a roller coaster. But I feel like you've, over the last 12 years, I'm hoping over the last few years, you've gotten a lot busier just because of everything that you've been able to produce. So yeah, hopefully this year's a real busy year for you as well.
We'll see. We'll see where to start. So that's one of the things. I mean, I don't know. I have some ideas. I mean, you know, I've been in talks with a few publishers. So all I know is like I will be busy, but what exactly is going to come up, I don't know that. So it's kind of like a surprise
Yeah.
thing. So it's refreshing. So you get a offer from like out of the blue, and like it's a cool project, and they're like, yeah, that's cool, let's do it. But you know that you're it's a business. Like I'm kind of like a hybrid business. I do my own promotion and everything online to keep in touch with people and all of that, and you know for my own like entertainment. And then like I produce the work, and the work catches up, and some of it has its own life. Hellraiser was made into a movie, nonetheless in Serbia. That was another like I completely forgot about that. That was also like the whole production was here in 2021 or 2020, 2021, 2022. I can't remember, but like it was here, so that was interesting.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, and I think they used some of the designs that we worked on the book like 10 years ago. So that was cool. And yeah, the Highlander is getting a reboot. So who knows what's going to happen with that? Like RoboCop was sold to Amazon. So the video game that came out now is awesome. Like they plan to do, I think, a movie or a TV show. So who knows what's going to happen in the future? But I'm optimistic. I'm like super cool. And that's like the part of the my own work that's gonna hopefully gonna come back and like
Yeah.
take it to the next level. So yeah,
Do
that's
you do you visit New York every year for Comic-Con?
not every year. I've been last year. Last year I stayed in the US for almost 5 months on two occasions. My cousin's sister lives in Florida, so I stayed there for a while. I attended MegaCon in Orlando, which happened, I think, like this weekend.
Yeah, it just happened.
Uh, yeah, so that was my experience last year. And I went to New York, and in 2022, I was in New York as well. And then before that, the last time I was in US was in 2017.
When are you
So I
planning
took
to come back for a Comic-Con again? Have you thought about that this year or not yet?
yeah, I'm planning for October. I
Okay.
was thinking maybe to try out San Diego this year, but that's a bit more complex, like
Yeah, it's I think it's in June, right? In
yeah,
June, something like that. May, June.
July, June. So
Yeah, something
yeah,
like that. Yeah. Yeah. That would be
but
awesome to
New
have you in
York,
San Diego. I live very close to San Diego, so
yeah. Well, I do want to visit California, all that West Coast to see. So it's probably going to happen next year because I plan to like do more conventions in US in the future. So for this year, because I have like a pipeline, I have to finish my book and I have a few projects. This is the working year, so the next year is going to be more promotional.
very
So, but New York is a must. Like that's a you know
agreed.
that's the one and only, like the title says. So
Agreed, Vladimir,
it's a,
agreed.
I mean, I like it. I like the pop culture. I like all that experience. Like, it's cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Well, I hope when you're back, I'm able to bump into you. So I don't know if I'll be at New York this year, but I'm at San Diego every year, and so hopefully I'll be able to bump into you. But man, Vladimir, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on the podcast. You're always welcome here. So anytime that you have something that you want to talk about, or we could just hang out and talk sci-fi, we could do that too, Vladimir. But
we can do that. Like, I'm down for it. I'm a sci-fi geek, so we can talk a bunch of stuff. We can talk pop culture, like all of that. Like, it's not. I'm not a stranger to that as well.
for
So
sure.
we might do that at some point. Why not? Like, I'll buzz you so we can organize something. But why not? This is like the business talk of comic books.
Exactly.
From the backstage, so we can go like we can go and do the fan talk as well because I am a
Absolutely.
fan.
Have you watched The Expanse yet?
The TV show.
Uh-huh.
I haven't finished it, but I watched like first two seasons, and
Yeah.
I bought the ebook, but I haven't got to read it. Like I just bought it. Like I want to check that out. Like
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Yeah, we have to, when you finish, you have to come back on and we could just do a show talking about The Expanse because I've loved it. I have one more season to go and I've been going through it, but it's such a fun sci-fi series. I'm kind of sad that they're not doing any more of it, but I think they had 5 seasons. That's pretty good.
Yeah, the Amazon bought right the last two seasons, if I remember, and they,
Correct. Yeah,
they
they did
finished the show.
3 and then Amazon purchased it and they did 2 more and then it ended. But man, it would be really neat to see what else they do, or maybe even make just like a feature film out of a certain story. But that would be really cool. But the acting and it was just so well done. I just really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
we can do that. Like, there's a lot of shows right now. They're super cool. I mean, Star Trek has like
yeah.
the whole series like of awesome shows. I watched Discovery. I was mind blown. Like it was so good. Picard was good as well. I haven't got to watch Strange New Worlds, but I want to do that. And like it's just like that's good. I watched everything else before, so I gotta like keep on the
Stay in
keep on the
line, right?
tabs.
You have to keep that line, right? That
Yeah, yeah,
progression.
yeah. Well, it's nice. I mean, like you get the full experience. Like 2 years ago, I did that with Marvel movies, but not the way they came out, but how they intended to be chronologically.
Oh, yeah.
So I watched 22 movies like 2 months in a row. It was winter, so like one movie per 2-3 days
Yeah, why
to
not?
get like the continuation. So it makes a really good experience to the round experience and everything what they want to do. Something gets a little bit more repetitive, but when you watch 20 movies of the same genre, like in a continuity, you kind of like see. And then when you make those things for a living, you also have the tools to see. So it kind of like, but it was still cool. So yeah, I'm totally down to that we talk about the pop culture stuff like
I love it, man. I love it, Vladimir. We'll definitely
time.
do that, man. We'll definitely do that, man.
Yeah, I'll buzz you. We can do it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me know when you have time. We'll do it for sure. It'll be a lot of fun, man.
All right. Just as soon as I finish some deadlines,
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. You got to have the deadlines before you have fun, right?
yeah, yeah. Well, no deadline, no, ability to pay bills. So
Exactly. Yeah, that's the unfortunate part, right? Is yeah, there's always bills. So
it's okay. It's okay. I
yeah,
manage.
exactly, exactly. Well, Vladimir, thank you so much for joining me today. I had a blast talking to you, and I can't wait to do it again, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me. We definitely got to do this again. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then as far as how people can follow you, are you on X, Instagram, Facebook, all of that? Yeah.
Yeah. Facebook, X, Instagram. I I have a TikTok as well, which is not super active, but like I'm experimenting with it. But definitely Facebook and like Instagram and X, that's the trilogy, the holy trilogy of social networks.
Exactly. And is it just your
And
name?
yeah, and LinkedIn.
Off?
LinkedIn is also LinkedIn is a
Oh, LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
And
Yeah,
that's where you
yeah.
and I talk.
That's how I found about your podcast. Yeah.
Awesome.
So
Very good. And it's just your name, Vladimir Popov, as far as Instagram?
no, it's a bit different. I kind of like I haven't branded that part the
Okay.
best.
Yeah.
So and now I branded some of it, but some of it is old. So it's a but it's there, like LinkedIn is like the hub,
Yeah.
and I have everything there, so then people can like go
Beautiful.
and yeah.
So I'll put all the links in the description. That way, if people want to follow your work and everything that you're doing,
I'll send you.
yeah, please. Yeah. Thank you, Vladimir. Appreciate it, man. Make sure we get more eyes on all the great things you're doing.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the exposure and talk.
Oh, I loved it, man. I love meeting you. I appreciate you reaching out to me. And until next time, my friend, I hope you have an amazing rest of your week.
You too. You too.
Talk soon, Vladimir.
Bye.